Alrighty. So, can you please state your name, your full name for the record?
Sharonne Robinson Bonardi.
Okay, thank you. When and where did you grow up, and where were you born?
I was born in Baltimore, Maryland, Baltimore City, and grew up in Baltimore City, attended Baltimore City public schools, and actually I went to the oldest all-girls public high school in the country, Western High School.
Cool. Okay. How would you describe your childhood and teenage years prior to college?
I'm an only child and very happy childhood, modest. My father died when I was 5, so my mother never remarried, and she raised me as a single mom that had lots of extended family and a very close knit family. Education was always something that was a priority for me and my family side, and it was a way to have upward mobility and had a very, what I would think of a normal childhood, but remained very much in my community, so there wasn't a lot to compare with prior to going to college. So everyone that I socialized with had very similar
experience. Yeah. When you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
That's funny. I don't recall this, but my family always said that I wanted to be a lawyer. And that is what I ultimately became. I've always been someone to advocate for others, to argue my position. And I was fortunate with the school that I went to. They had a program wherein you could graduate in 3 years instead of 4. So I did that accelerated program, graduated at the age of 16 before going to Trinity. So when I started Trinity, I turned 17, so I was 16 when I came on campus. And so I always knew I wanted to go to college, but they were calling me saying that I wanted to be an attorney.
Okay. What brought you to Trinity, and was Trinity your first choice?
Trinity was not my first choice. I wanted to go to a women's college, and as I just stated, I was 16, and Spelman was my first choice. I was admitted to Spelman, and my mother would not let me go to Atlanta at the age of 16 by myself, especially with me being an only child again, with her being widowed. So she wanted me closer by.
Right.
It was in D.C. And I'd also looked at Hood, our college counselor in high school, mentioned that area was just, he didn't think an area that I would thrive in, and felt that there was still some racism in the Frederick County area that D.C. would be a better place. And
that's so funny. That was actually my first choice. I wanted to go to Spelman too.
And I had friends who graduated there. They loved their experience.
Yeah. Were you the first person in your family to attend college?
I was the first person to graduate college.
Okay.
I had some family members who took a few classes. Also, she was a fellow employee and took some classes, but graduated. But I was the first family member to graduate college.
Okay. How would you describe your experience at Trinity?
So my experience at Trinity, I think because you don't have anything to compare it with. So I was very pleased with my experience at Trinity from a friend's perspective. I mean, I will tell you other questions or if you want me to answer it here, but when I was at Trinity, actually the year before I started Trinity, there was some racial tension on campus, and actually the issue made the Washington Post. The students did not want the Black students clients to have a vote in the school senate. And I don't know if that's something other people may have shared with you. And for me, that was odd. I'm in Baltimore and in a public high school that is diverse. And I had already accepted the offer for admission. And so I was concerned that this was the type of climate I was going to start my matriculating for college. But fortunately, the college president, Sister Donna, she intervened and she overrode the vote of the student senate. And so that's when the Black Student Alliance was given a vote from the student senate. And I recall reading that article, and there was a quote in there where the student said, "When the tennis club doesn't have a vote, why should the Black students have the vote?" So to be marginalized in that way was the concern of coming on campus. And I experienced some prejudice and discrimination during my time at Trinity, which was 85 to 89. And I don't know if you're going to ask, but I could share some of those experiences.
Yeah, I believe we should get into, I think we're going to get into that, but if, it's a ton of questions, but if we don't, then I'll just jot that down, the years that you attended Trinity. Did you, well, you're even through that. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on your experience of being a woman of color? I mean, I think you touched pretty much on that. Is there anything else you want to say regarding?
Well, I would like to share some very specific experiences, and they weren't just, some are individual and some were group. I mentioned the school senate issue. I remember my first or second year at Trinity, but there was an athletic requirement, and I had not learned to swim, and I wanted to take swim classes, and the group of the Black students who signed up for the swim class. I may have been the only person who wasn't able to swim, others were able to swim. And I mentioned to, actually the athletic director was the instructor for the class, and I mentioned to her that I don't know how to swim, and so this was my first introduction to just kind of give her that foundation, and she made a statement. Well, that's not uncommon. It's harder for Black people to swim because their bones are denser. And I asked for her to give some documentation for her statement. And at first she declined. We went to the dean to have a conversation about it, and the decision was made that she should have the opportunity to provide support. And what she provided was, unfortunately, research from the late 30s and 40s of Nazi Germany. And so we were very upset as Black students that she had made that statement, and it was, in our opinion, unfounded, and what she provided was racist, and asked that she apologize. And she refused to apologize. And so there was tension on campus, and the Black students, we put signs on our dorm doors that said, "I'm Black and I'm buoyant." And then at night, unfortunately, some of our classmates would then write derogatory things on our signs and anti-protest to our protests. I have written online, and I was RA at the time, so I must have stopped in the second week. They put on there, "I'm white and I don't care if we die," and things like that. So at that time, it was a very small Black population at Trinity. I know we were less than 10%, but we were very close-knit. And fortunately, college president, I believe it was President McGrath at the time, the first, I think, male and also person who was not religious as college president, and he did make a public apology in the student paper for us. So we felt that we had somewhat of a victory, but it was just unfortunate that athletes at such a small college would have those types of remarks frequently. And then something that's more personal was I, senior year, was eligible for Phi Beta Kappa, at least the requirements were listed for Phi Beta Kappa, and wasn't selected for Phi Beta Kappa. And so I asked the chairman of the committee at the time, Mr. President Bonardi, why wasn't I selected? And it took a lot of courage to even ask why I was selected. And he said that it wasn't just based on your current academic achievement and your GPA, that they looked at future academic prowess. And it's like, how do you prove your future academic prowess? And so that's something that's always been a concern of mine. It actually discouraged me to participate after graduation in alumni events because it just didn't feel that I was included in the community and that my value, my work was considered. And I believe it became a motivator for me because I then went to law school and got my MBA and had higher academic achievement and professionally and academically achieved things that other people who were awarded Phi Beta Kappa during that year achieved. And so I feel like I demonstrated my future academic prowess, but I'll never be a member of Phi Beta Kappa because I believe that there was bias.
Right. I love that, the fact that you asked her, it's like, oh, where's your evidence about this?
Yeah, we went to Howard's library and started doing research and presented things to contradict what she presented. And so we did have a mini victory.
Did you have a mentor or a role model at Trinity? Who were they and what did they do for you academically and professionally, to contribute to your growth at Trinity or outside of Trinity?
And I wouldn't say I had any formal role. I definitely have role models, but not mentors. I don't think mentorship was even a concept. Back then it was, we just kind of had to find our way with some things. But there were some professors who definitely were champions, and I have a lot of respect for. One, Sister Mary Hayes, she actually taught African American studies courses, and we asked one time, why doesn't Trinity hire a person of color to teach the course for us? And she sat down with us and had a very intimate conversation about her passion and what she was bringing to the course. And she was an excellent professor. We really appreciate her and her perspective. And I look up to Sister Mary Hayes for that. She tried to get me to apply for Fulbright, and I didn't. And she also has had the foresight that there was going to be a gap or need for people of color in academia, and I didn't follow her advice, and that's something that I sometimes wonder if I had gone to grad school instead of law school, where would I be also professionally, because I still have this interest in academia and being dean or college president somewhere, serving that way. But she was definitely a champion. And Dr. Lori Spunt, she was an English teacher at the time, and she was a true advocate. We actually had an incident in one of her classes, a business writing class, and we were in exchange. I think it was like a cover letter and resume writing was part of the course, and we were to exchange our cover letters with other classmates, and they were to comment on them and grade them for you. And before returning the grades, she took a good 20 minutes of the class, and she was very emotional and passionate about it, that she reviewed the peer reviews, and she herself saw that there was bias in the peer review. And she said that she was very concerned because she, being an alumna, she just felt that the college would train people differently, prepare people differently, so they wouldn't have the type of bias. And she said one day, you're going to be a managerial role, so you're going to hire people, and you have this bias, and you need to know about this bias. And classmates said, well, how do we know? We don't know everybody in the class. The class was small. There may be 15, 20 people in the class. And she said, even if every Black student doesn't know all the white students in the class, which I'm sure you all know each other because the classes are so small, that all of the white students know that only 3 or 4 Black people in the class. And so she said that was obvious, that they had this bias. And some of the commentary with the peer review was overly confident, arrogant in how you're writing your cover letter or how you're presenting yourself on a resume. And that was just very concerning for her. So I really respect that she used her influence and her role as a professor and stood up and advocated for, even to be aware that this is something that was occurring, and for her to have that perspective and to make that part of the whole dialogue. So I really respect her for that. Because I was in another class where professors didn't say, many classes where professors didn't say anything.
Right.
I had it was a business management class, and you got to choose your topic to present on. And I chose, it was Blacks in business, and wanted to talk about like minorities in business and advancement and things like that. And at the time, like affirmative action. And after my presentation, one of my classmates raised her hand and said, I don't care about affirmative action. I don't care if you get a job, that it will just take away jobs for me and my future husband. And the professor said nothing. And I was the only Black person in the class. And I had to stand there and continue with you. And it definitely made me a much stronger person. I'm someone who is an advocate for underrepresented people, and feel it's my responsibility to make certain that everybody is part of the discussion in the community.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. There's like a sound that's coming from your computer a little bit, as if it's like turning on and off. And then I can hear you, but I'm just going to have to like transcribe it. So I want to be able to hear everything that you're saying. It's a little echoey. I don't know if you want to turn the volume. I can hear you right now, but just for the sake of me having to like write down everything you're saying later, I want to have everything word for word. I can hear you right now.
I could try to put the headset back.
Okay. Okay. Hello.
Wait, let me just.
That's way better.
Okay. Are you able to hear me?
Yes. Your camera's off.
The other thing is the wait, I don't know if I'm speaking through the headset or not.
I think you are. Yeah, I can hear.
And I think the speakers are not.
Okay.
Now we're good. Yes, they're synced up now.
Okay. Okay. So is there what was the most memorable?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, the most memorable piece of advice that a mentor gave to you.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I had one other one too. Just quickly, there were 2 deans who supported our effort to start a citywide chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, because Trinity, Catholic, Georgetown, Mount Vernon, the Catholic schools did not have any chapters of Alpha Kappa Alpha, and so we had 2 deans who supported that, and so they were also champions to just have that foresight that was something that would be at Trinity that had some form of Greek life and weren't allowed to have them on campus. But you said advice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think at Trinity, was there any advice? I guess it would be the advice that I didn't take from Sister Mary Hayes when she was, and I regret that. And also there was encouragement to do the year abroad at Oxford. I just couldn't do it, just financially. And I know that my mother wasn't going to support me anyway for a year. But I think it would just generally would be the advice that we were given and what was modeled for us as women, and that we needed to be the leaders and future leaders that we are.
Yeah, more so like the general message to everyone, but nothing too specific to you.
Yeah, I don't recall it specifically to me.
Right.
But it's been a long time ago, too.
What did you do after receiving your undergrad at Trinity?
So I went directly to law school, and then after law school, I, of course, passed the bar and began working in state government, and actually in an area that I did not think that I want to remain in. It was tax law. I wanted to pursue something more in employment law, but the job market was really bad at the time, and I was able to get a job as a government attorney. And that has actually been a wonderful path for me, because I was able to advance. I'm now deputy controller for the state of Maryland, which is the highest position that's not elected in the state comptroller's office. And I'm the second female and the first person of color to be deputy controller for the state of Maryland. And it's over 150-year, 60-year history. And have been in this role for over 6 years now. And we serve as, of course, the chief financial officer for the state. So I have 1,100 employees and 10 divisions that report to me. But I started as a hearing officer here and was promoted to director of compliance with the deputy controller role. I also serve on numerous boards, the State Employees Credit Union of Maryland board, and I was vice chair of that board. Was past president of the Federation of Tax Administrators, which represents all the state departments of revenue controllers offices around the country. And I believe I may have been the first, if not the second, person of color to serve as president of that board. And in January, actually, I will become executive director for the association, and I will be the first person of color to serve as the executive director for the Federation of Tax Administrators. So professionally, that's what I've done since Trinity, and involved in lots of women's and community associations. I mentioned, of course, Alpha Kappa Alpha, and Links Incorporated, as well as the Girls Mentoring Program and other community associations.
Do you think Trinity...
And mother, I should say, and mother and wife.
Do you think Trinity helped prepare you for this role that you have now currently?
Absolutely. I know going to a women's college and having the leadership roles that I had at Trinity, and in a space where it was safe and where there was encouragement and support of my peers, as well as some of the professors and leadership of the college. And just the role models that we have from the various alumni and graduates the various positions that they were. I will stand on those shoulders, and it gave me Trinity definitely gave me the confidence that I have, and it for my leadership style, being compassionate, collaborative, and being able to bring that into the workplace.
Great. After hearing all of that, I would be proud of all my accomplishments, but what is the most accomplishment that you're proud of?
And actually, at Trinity, I brought it with me. I was a T-pin recipient. I don't know. Do you still have T-pins? Do you still give out T-pins at Trinity?
No, I don't believe so.
So the T-pin, and I'll get it out after so you can see it. I brought it with me today. But the faculty selected a few people every year to receive the T-pin. It's usually your senior year, and it's awarded to people who are representative of the character of a Trinity woman. And only 3 people received it my year, and I was one of those 3 people. So I'm very proud of my team.
Very cool. What kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind?
And it's the legacy that I want to leave behind today. It's been, I think, affirmed that I've been successful. That means the comptroller's office, they surprised me with a video tribute because they know that I'm retiring at the end of the year to take this role. And they were emotional. I was emotional because all the messages were how I inspire each and every one of the people who shared, and being a woman of color, and being a leader, but leading with compassion and empathy, and making others feel included and valued. And that was what I wanted to do the entire time that I've been a leader, starting as a manager to this executive level position. And today it was affirmed that is what they see as the legacy, and they want that to continue, and that I was able to touch so many people individually, and then that was to help form a culture that I know will be sustainable when I'm not here. That affirmation was great today.
Yeah. Can you tell me about 1 or 2 historical moments that occurred when you were at Trinity that moved you emotionally? Probably several that you have.
I know, we're trying to go back to the time of what was occurring. Well, I know that there was a vacancy on the Supreme Court, and there was a judge who was running, not running, but who was being considered for the role, and the country was very torn because he was very, very conservative, extreme conservative, and there were students rallying on campus in support of his appointment, and of course there were students who were against his appointment. And being in DC while that was going on was very emotional, and he wasn't appointed to the bench because of his positions racially and gender wise, and so I think that was influential, especially for someone who was looking to law school.
Right.
So that was something that was historically happened.
So how did that specific moment impact your life or your career? Like you just mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it me wanting to be an attorney, that was impactful. And then in law school was when the Anita Hill Justice Thomas hearings took place, and then to see a different outcome. So I think that work was like a continuation of the Thomas appointment, and so those things around gender equity and gender equality definitely impact my career and how I move.
What do you consider to be the most significant civil rights or social justice event of your lifetime?
Of my lifetime, for me, because I'm able to participate in them,
very directly.
What occurred over the last 5 years or so. So I would say one, it started with the civil arrest in Baltimore with Freddie Gray. And I was working in Baltimore just a couple of blocks from where the unrest began to unfold, and had to make a decision of whether I would but the staff was going to stay in the building, if they were going to go home, because the leadership in our Annapolis office, they were being non-responsive, and so just made the decision of walked around the building whenever you could see police cars burning outside window, and just thinking how you get home. But once you got through that piece and came to a safe place, then able to be in a state of mind of how can you participate in a safe way to demonstrate your position. And my son was a pre-teen, young teenager at the time. So it started there, and we have ever since. I think he leads us more than we lead them, where we do as a family demonstrate. We went to the Women's March in DC, and we've gone to anti-protest rally in Boston, and he's now at UVA, and we had been in the area around the time that they're arrested as well. So I think it's this continuous movement, because I do think it is a movement and it's not an event. And so I think what we're experiencing now as the country and how we are responding or not responding is what's pivotal for me, because I get to be an active participant. And I like to participate not just through demonstration, but from a policy perspective. And what I have been able to do as the deputy comptroller is just look at how some of our tax policy impacts underrepresented people, and what can we do to address that, what type of outreach we need to do into underrepresented communities. And I was able to testify and get support for a bill that passed last session in Maryland to establish a low-income tax credit, because low-income taxpayers, well, just low-income people are representatives when it comes to criminal matters, but if you have a major tax issue in front of you that can be financially crippling, and that can have just a great impact on your life, your livelihood, and your family. And so now people of a certain income will be able to have advocates and representatives to get them through those types of text disputes and controversies. I think now, because I'm able to be more active and actually impact policy and affect change.
Yeah, I love that. The fact that, for you, it goes beyond, protesting, and you actually want to see, change. And I see that a lot where some people, they just, kind of go out and protest, but then it's like, what do you do? Are you like voting? And just this year, I think a lot of young people just found out that this is kind of more than voting for, the president, and you can actually vote for judges and all those little elections that really make a difference. So
absolutely,
that's really cool. What does the world need to know about Trinity, and what does the world need to know about Trinity alumni?
I think the world needs to know that Trinity is a gem in the District of Columbia. I wish I knew now when I was at Trinity, because I didn't take full advantage of being in DC. The access that you just have to not just the Hill, but to all the associations and groups that just have a presence in DC. The policymakers, the media, just being in DC, and having this small community of women to help form your education and build your network for the future. And to have alum like the Speaker of the House graduate from Trinity is, to me, amazing. I know that I thought Trinity should put together a special program in government and really market the graduates, and that would draw more students to the university.
Yeah.
I love that it's still small. I love that President McGuire, who is another champion, someone who I have a lot of respect for, and the vision that she had when women colleges were disappearing. She had a strategic plan of let's recruit locally, let's have a more diverse student body, and we would be able to keep Trinity a women's college and viable and competitive. So that's what I think is what's a gem. I wouldn't have known what I know now. I wouldn't have chosen to go to another college. I just would have taken more advantage of what was available. Was in DC.
I think I'm also dealing with the same thing, like just being my senior year. I'm like, oh, I wish I would have done this. And I really found it interesting what she said.
There was some movement wherein the Alumni Association wanted to separate from the college, and there was correspondence sent out to every graduate. First of all, I was assuming that everyone was
on board.
Right, and they didn't consider that minority people would receive this correspondence, or they didn't care that we would. And so there was an invitation to attend a meeting in Maryland for this group, and I attended. And I'm sure they were shocked at what
a whole other agenda,
because I was the only person of color there, and it definitely tempered their conversation because I was there. But I found it was important to go, and I shared with them openly what my GPA was, where I think at the time I may have just graduated law school, but I had an advanced degree, and I then am offended for you to make this presumption that because I'm of color that I'm not as academically prepared, and so I just wanted to represent what people of color can do and are doing, and that we were not forming a reputation of the college women added to I didn't get any more first place after that.
I love that.
Because like both you and I are saying that they kind of took for granted what I had